Hello everyone, Michelle here from Gardening TLC. We are in Northern Illinois, Zone 5, and yes, we are still going through a heat wave, and you probably are too. We are still gonna garden though. We're gonna actually just stay in the shade. We're gonna work in the hosta bed today, and my hosta bed is underneath a maple tree. Yes, that can be a little bit of a challenge, but as you can see, we're being pretty successful with it. Now we are gonna try and identify the hostas in the bed today. I have 5 new hostas that I wanna introduce, and I've got some ground covers that I think are gonna be the solution that I've been looking for. So come with me today and let's go check it out. Planting underneath a maple tree can be a little bit of a challenge. One, they are hogs. They want everything. They want all the water, all the light, all the nutrients. And they have these little feeder roots that go out everywhere. And so once they get really big and established, it's really hard to plant underneath them. Now I'm gonna plant underneath this one here, which is a red maple. And I'd say, if I had to guess how old this tree is, it's probably 15 years old. So it's still fairly young. I have some other maple trees on my property that are probably 20, 25 years old, and planting underneath them would be probably a total nightmare because maple tree roots grow on the surface of the soil. So in the case of older maples, your best bet is ground cover or just to mulch it in, because what happens is you end up getting sod that's dying back. You can't get grass to grow underneath it unless you're constantly watering, constantly reseeding, and that in itself can be a chore. So we have an area on the other side of our garden that's all the way over there. We will be tackling that area later in the year. That one is like starting from a blank slate underneath a maple where the sod has died out, and we're gonna be working on that one later this year. Right now, today, I want to work in the shade because 1, it's hot, and 2, I really want to finish this bed and get it buttoned up. Last year we tried a couple different ground covers, not with a lot of success. Now the ajuga was totally my fault because it got cut back. I started to clean up the gardens, got really busy, and then I ended up sending my guys over to finish the cleanup underneath this maple tree, and they didn't just cut the hostas back, they cut back everything, including my hellebores and the ajuga. Now, at first I thought the ajuga was completely gone, but it's not. It has been coming back up, and I think that it will recover, but the ajuga is more like towards the outside edge of the bed. And one of the things that I've been trying to grow is right around the bottom of the tree, because my goal is that I don't have to mulch this anymore. I lose so much mulch to the cleanup with the leaves in the fall that it gets expensive to keep mulching over and over again, and then I don't, and then what ends up happening is I just get weeds, and then I'm spending time weeding, and I don't want to do that either. So what we're going to do today is we're going to try a new ground cover that we're going to put in here, and yes, we're going to use little plugs because trying to dig anything up close to the tree bigger than a plug is going to be near to impossible. We're also going to do a little trick that I'm going to show you that will help me get them going. Now last year I didn't do this, and I probably should have, but we're going to do it this time and try again. But we're going to try a different plant this year. Now last year I tried lamium and I tried the white Nancy. Nope, there's like little bitty maybe pieces of it here and there, but it really petered out. It didn't even have a chance. So for me, that one didn't work. It does work further out, but not by the base of the tree. So we are going to try a big root geranium, or a geranium mycorrhizum. This one is called Bevan's variety, and it gets anywhere from 10 to 12 inches, and it is supposed to be semi-evergreen. Now in the fall, these leaves will turn red, and they've got this nice deeply lobed leaf on it, and they do bloom. And so usually the blooms are April through July, and then they peter out. Typically you don't have to cut them back. Usually this will like disappear down inside of that. So I've decided that this is the ground cover that I'm going to try and do through the hosta bed. My other goal with doing this is, 1, I don't want to mulch, but 2, I want some kind of ground cover on the ground here when we're in winter and it's not just bare, because once you cut all these hostas back, there's nothing here. And I want something that's going to be there in the winter as well, because it'll look better. So that's what we're going to try. Now I haven't cleaned this area up yet, and what I'll have to do first is I'm definitely going to have to go through and get the weeds out. There aren't a lot of them. Most of them are where there's space between the hostas. where the hostas are growing together, there's really no weeds in there because we've planted them close enough together that that's not an issue. Now, when I did this bed, I knew what every one of these hostas was, and I did have a mark, but at some point over the last 6 years, I have lost those tags. Some of them I know what they are. Some of them I don't know what they are. Some of them you have helped me identify, but I brought my hosta book over today from the company that I actually bought the hostas from, and we're hoping to get these all identified. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take some copper tags, I'm gonna write with a garden marker, and I'm gonna get them marked. Now, this isn't a long-term solution, it's just a solution for this season, because eventually that marker will wear off this copper tag, but I can keep writing over and over and over on them every year and hopefully not forget what they are in the future. I am also going to be trying another ground cover that I've never grown before. Now, this isn't going to go underneath the tree. This is actually going to go on the other side of the tree alongside the pathway that leads from the deck out to the yard. And last year we planted some Virginia and none of it came back. It all perished. It was also where we put the blue star junipers that weren't getting enough light, and then we dug them up and we moved them over to the passageway bed. So now I need to figure out what I want to put in its place, and what I decided was I'm going to try 2 different kinds of carex. Now, carex will grow in part sun or full sun, and typically they're a water loving plant and they can spread if you're not careful. Now, because I'm planting this in a drier area, I have high hopes that this isn't going to spread all over the place. I'm going to use 2 different ones. Now, these are also known as sedges. This first one is a blue sedge. It's a carex flocka called Blue Zinger. And here it is right here. It's got a nice blue foliage on it. And you can see again, we're using plugs. And yes, they desperately want out. They have roots coming out the bottom. They want out so bad. Now this Blue Zinger is, let's see what it says. It blooms early to late summer. You want to plant it in sun or part sun. It wants to be watered 2 to 3 times a week until it's established, and it grows 6 to 24 inches high, and you want to space them 6 to 24 inches. So it's going to get a lot bigger than this, 2 by 2. I don't think it'll get that big because it's not getting that much sun, but it is getting sun as it travels over the top of the house in this little area, and we're hoping that it does well there. And again, this might be one of those things where I'm trying to force something that needs more sun into an area that needs more shade, but we're trying it because I think it might work. All right, this guy grows in zone 5 through 9, and it provides good color contrast. It spreads steadily to form a thick ground cover. To encourage lateral shoots, cut back the foliage during the growing season. So I'm not going to cut this back because obviously it's pretty little, but if it starts to look like it needs to be cut back later, like towards the end of July into August, then I will. But we are going to use this along the pathway going out to the backyard from the deck. Now, I don't want to just do blue though. I thought I would do every other. And we're going to try a variegated one as well. So this is also a sedge. Now this one is called Carex ashmenis, and it's called Evergold, and some of you might be familiar with this one. This one blooms in late summer. Again, plant in partial sun or shade, prefers well-drained soil, grows up to 12 inches and space 14 inches, so a little bit smaller. So what I thought I would do is plant these a little bit forward and the blue a little bit further back and kind of zigzag them down. And there's enough room to do this. And then I think this will spill over the sidewalk a little bit. Well, it's not a sidewalk. It's like these little square pavers that are there. And I think it'll look really nice. Zone 5 through 9, it says it's eye-catching and attractive. And I agree. It's light and airy. Its arching blades of colorful foliage form graceful mounds. Great for adding textural interest. Lovely planted along a stilby. Well, I'm not planting a stilby. Trellis or ligulata. Well, I do have trellis, but they're in a different spot. So we're just going to use this to soften the edge of the path, and I just want something to fill in that area, and I like that it's going to have a different texture than the boxwoods and the hostas that are over there. All right, so those are my ground cover solutions that I'm going to try. Before we start working in the hosta garden and identifying what we already have, let's talk about the 5 new hostas that we're going to actually add to this garden. Now, the first one is not new. It's already in this garden, but I like it and I want more of them. If you're ever looking for a white-edged hosta, I would highly recommend a Patriot. These are fabulous, and the more mature they get, the wider this margin gets on here. It's so striking in the garden, and it shows up. And if you plant them in mass or you plant them in a row, they really are super nice. Now, even if you want to plant them as a specimen plant, they do well that way too. Now, again, this is a hybrid hosta called Patriot, and most of your hostas are growing in zone 3 through 9. In fact, every one of the ones that I'm going to show you is going to grow in zone 3 through 9. Now, this is not a very big hosta, only 15 to 30 inches high, 18 to 24 inches across. So it's going to be one of those ones that's a little bit more towards the edge of the border. I'm not going to dump this in the back. And as I widened the bed, I felt like I needed some more of these, and I'm going to plant them up by the boxwoods as well because I need to break up some of the green, and it gives me this nice textural difference as well. So we're going to be adding 3 more of these to the garden, and I just love this hosta. I think it just shows up in the garden so well. So not a new hosta for me, but I'm going to add 3 more. This next one is also not a new hosta for me. I have this one growing up front in the driveway bed, and you guys helped me identify it last year, and I like it so much that I decided I'm going to add a few more, and that is the Rainbow's End. And again, this is not a very big hosta. This is one that you would use like to edge a bed out or as a specimen plant on the edge of a bed. It is so beautiful. I absolutely love it. Only gets 11 inches high, 22 inches wide, and this one remains attractive from spring to frost. And I have this planted up there near the autumn frost proven winter hostas, and again, it was one of the hostas last year that looked good through the whole entire season. I don't have bug activity on this one, and I just absolutely love the way it looks. So we're going to be adding these as well, again, more towards the edge. So those 2, we actually already have these hostas. We just want more of them. All right. I have 3 more hostas that I'm going to add, and they are not in my garden. They're all going to be new. Let's start with the 2 blues that I chose. Both of these blue hostas are from Proven Winners, and the first one is called Above the Clouds, and it is a Shadowland hosta. And even though this hosta doesn't look very big in the pot right here, this is actually a fairly large hosta. It's going to get about 25 inches high, and it can get 54 inches across. That's over 4 feet. Now, underneath a maple tree, I'm probably never going to get a hosta to get that big, but boy, we're going to go for it, and it's probably going to get still a decent size. Now, this has like this cloudy blue color to it, and it has nice puckered leaves. Now, today they don't look as puckered. They seem a little more smooth, but as this grows and matures and starts to come into its size, you'll start to see those leaves pucker up more and more. We love puckered leaves because it makes them a little bit more bug and slug resistant. But this one is also blue, but it's called Diamond Lake. This is also from the Shadowland collection from Proven Winners. And what I love about this one is that ruffle leaf that it gets. And it has a long kind of elongated leaf versus that round leaf like the other one does. And so I think this is going to look really good in the garden. This one only gets 17 inches high, so it's not as tall as the other one, and it's only going to get 45 inches across, so under 4 feet. It's still a big hosta, but not as big as the other one. So I've got 2 big bad blue ones we're going to be adding. Pretty excited about these because I love blue hostas. All right, 1 more hosta that we're going to add that's new to our garden. This is also a fairly large hosta once it gets going, and this is from Shadowland collection, Proven Winners. It's called Voices in the Wind, 17 inches high, 46 inches across. A beautiful ruffled hosta with wedge-shaped leaves. Blue-green leaves have ruffled, creamy yellow margins. It has pale lavender flowers. Isn't that great? So this one is more of a variegated one. And it doesn't have a lot of variegation on it right now, but when you see it full grown, right there, see how much variegation is on that? I think this is going to be fabulous. I'm going to use my Huffy Nursery catalog to identify the hostas in the bed. This is an older catalog. Sometimes growers discontinue things if they're not selling, or they'll introduce new things, and every grower has finite amount of space to grow in. So I grabbed an old book because some of these might not be in the new books, and hopefully we'll be able to identify all of them because I bought every one of them from Huffy Nursery. All right, so if anything, you're going to get to see all the different hostas, even if we can't identify them. The one thing to keep in mind is I haven't cleaned this bed up yet, so you're gonna see some weeds. Oh my God, there's gonna be weeds. It'll be okay. And you're gonna see some tattered leaves. So I haven't cleaned up my hostas yet. We had 2 different hailstorms and tons of wind this year, and they've done a little bit of a number on my hostas. They're not as beautiful as they normally are, and I have not cleaned them up yet, so you're not even gonna see that. But you're gonna see the hosta damage and all, and the goal right now is to try to identify them. Well, there's the hosta bed, you guys. You can see it is underneath a maple tree, and I did spend about 20 minutes going through and identifying all of the hostas in here with the book, and then I placed the hostas that I brought over in the places where I want to put them. I am going to go and show you the different hostas. We'll go over the specs very quickly, and this way you'll kind of get an idea of which each hosta is. So we're going to start right here with this big, beautiful blue one. This one here is Blue Angel, and all of these hostas grow in zone 3 through 9. That way I don't have to repeat myself. And this guy is going to get 34 to 36 inches high, 42 inches wide. It has huge heart-shaped leaves on it. I love leaf casting these. They're more slug resistant than most, and they have this nice puckered texture. So I do really like this one a lot. I've grown it for years and years and years, and it is a good blue in the garden. Next to that blue is a Royal Standard. These are so easy to grow. They're super fast growing. They've got a pretty shiny leaf on them. They are sun tolerant as well, so you can actually put these with a little bit more sun. I would still say hot afternoon sun is going to scorch the leaves, so try to stay with that morning sun. 24 to 28 inches high and 18 to 24 inches wide. Those were here when I moved in, and we just left them. This little swath of hostas right here was also here when I moved in, and I just left them. And this is the elbow marginata, which is probably the most commonly grown white-edged hosta that there is. They're 15 to 18 inches high, 15 to 18 inches wide. They actually do really well as an edging plant. They can handle a little bit of sun, but as you can see, as the flowers come up, the leaves come up, the stalks as well. And I've already seen bee activity on these, but they're a nice, dependable hosta. They're a great ground cover hosta. We are still in the same section. We're just coming around to the other side as you come up the pathway, and we have some smaller hostas growing. This one is called Golden Tiara. This is also a great ground cover hosta. It grows really fast. You never ever have to buy more than one because they're easy to split and they grow fast. They only get 12 to 14 inches high and wide, and as you can see, they've got a really pretty heart-shaped leaf. It's got a dark center with a lighter green on the outside. They're a smaller hosta, so they're really great to use as an edging plant. Now, next to that, we have another hosta. This one is called Ario Marginata, and the biggest difference is it's yellow edged instead of white edged. This one can get anywhere from 18 to 24 inches high, 26 inches wide, but this is a nice, pretty, steady, stable hosta that grows very well, and you can see it's right there next to the elbow marginata. So the two of them together, I think, look really nice. I think this is a really nice grouping of hostas right here between the blue and the little golden tiara. I just think it's a nice little grouping. That is all the hostas in that path. Let's flip around to the other side, and we will go up the inside edge first until we get to the top, and then we'll kind of hit the ones in the middle, and then we'll do the outside edge. So we have another golden tiara right here, and as you can see, we have opportunity to plant something else in this area. But as we come up the sidewalk, we've got a beautiful one here. This one is called Liberty. This hosta is a sport of Sagae, and it was bred by Jay Makem and introduced by Plant Haven. It was the hosta of the year in 2012. It's an absolutely beautiful hosta with large green leaves and yellow margins. The margins actually fade to a creamy white as we get through the season, and then it has purple blooms on it in the summer. It's going to get 24 to 26 inches high and about 22 inches wide. I think that this is a really nice, bright hosta, and again, I have it on the edge of the border because it's not a very big one, but it certainly has a presence in the garden. And then we have that planted next to a pretty blue one, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. All right, moving up the garden just a little bit, we've decided that we want to put the blue Diamond Lake right there, so that's where I'm going to put it. And then next to that, we have a Sub and Substance that I think I want to pop out, and I'm going to put a Patriot in its place. You can see that I have scattered compost bags throughout the garden because I will be doing that as my mulch this year. I do have weeds that I have to get out of here, which we'll do before we plant. But let's go to the next hosta, and that's this little cutie right here. This is the one hosta. I don't know what this is. It's not a big hosta. I'm not sure where I got it, if I got it at a plant trade or I picked it up on sale somewhere. I think I liked it because it was so small and cute, and I wanted to put it on the edge of the border. If any of you can identify this hosta for me, that would be awesome. This next one coming up makes me think tropical all the way. This one is called Stained Glass, and it really is a beautiful hosta with two different kinds of green, almost a yellow there in the center, but not quite. This one gets 14 to 16 inches high and anywhere from 24 to 28 inches across. And this guy is full grown. It's as big as it's going to get, and it really shows up in the garden. I like this one a lot. Now, if we slide up a little bit, yep, one of my favorite hostas. This next one is June. Isn't this a great hosta with those blue-green streaks and then some of that chartreuse in there? I absolutely love June. It's one of my favorites. I have this in more than one place in my garden. This is growing 12 to 16 inches high, 14 inches wide, but when they're happy, they can actually get a little bit bigger because this is a little bit bigger than that. Look at that beautiful blue-green striped foliage with a little bit of chartreuse in there. Absolutely gorgeous. I love this hosta, and we have this at the base of the steps as you come around the path, planted right next to this one, and then we have some hellebores planted in between. So gotta love the Jew. Another favorite hosta of mine is definitely Sagae. If you want to add some drama to the garden, plant a Sagae. Big, bold, beautiful variegated leaves. These guys are getting anywhere from 28 to 36 inches high, and they get close to 3 feet across. I love these three together. Now, the one thing they don't like is hot afternoon sun, and I can tell you mine gets scorched a little bit right there as we head into the end of July, beginning of August, and I just trim the leaves off. But I love this hosta. It makes a big, bold statement in the garden. Let's go into the interior of the bed and look at a few of the ones that we have in here. This bold, beautiful hosta is called Brother Stefan. It's growing 18 to 20 inches high, 24 to 28 inches wide. This was the 2017 Hosta of the Year. It was chosen for its great, thick, puckered, variegated golden leaves with blue-green margins. Isn't that great? It is slug resistant. Next to that, we have a Patriot hosta, and then behind that, we got a little bitty patch right there of Golden Tiara. Because as I said, those are so easy to split. You can take a little bitty chunk and get it in the ground in between those maple roots, and they grow really fast. As we come into the bed, we're gonna come up on a hosta called Strip Tease. This gets 20 inches high, 36 inches wide, and I find that the more shade that this one gets, the more that interior stripe on it turns a little bit more green. If it has a little bit of morning sun, that strip has a tendency to have more white in it. This is the same hosta that we have in the passageway bed. Now you can see I got a big hole right here, and I've decided that I want to add the Shadowland Voices in the Wind. I'm going to put it right here. Remember, that's a fairly large hosta. And then we have a Francis William right back here, but I have a better example of one along the edge, so let's go take a look. We are going to go along the outside edge and identify the hostas going up the bed, and you'll also see where I'm going to add some hostas. Now you can see here I widened the bed in this area, so I've got some opportunities through here to add some things, and you can see the ajuga is just starting to come back. Now with that, let's just shoot up a little bit, and we got a Crossa Regal right here. This is a vase-shaped hosta, and they can get 28 to 33 inches high. They have a nice frosty blue color. It's a wonderful specimen or background plant. It's got late season flowers. It's got great slug resistance. So we have these in a couple places in the garden, and we do like the blue that it puts off. Next to that, we have a Francis William, and I said I had a better example of one, and here it is. Now this is also one that we have up in the driveway bed that's looking very fabulous up there. This is another one of those hostas that I absolutely love the variegation on. The flowers come up over the top of it, but it's got a good slug resistance to it. I'd say the biggest downfall when you have big leaf hostas like this, though, is if you have a rainstorm with hail, it does damage the leaves, and then there's no getting that back. Unfortunately, that happened to us at the beginning of the season, and now we're going to have to live with that for the rest of the season. Francis William is also one that I like to leaf cast with. 24 to 28 inches high, 24 to 36 inches wide. Absolutely beautiful hosta. And I do believe I want to drop a Patriot right down there in front of it. And then we've got another Royal Standard right alongside of that. So I like the combination of colors this will produce as well. Isn't that nice background? Look at those yellow flowers peeking through. Let's move along the bed, and you can see the next one that I want to put in is a Rainbow's End. And I didn't realize that I had already planted one in here just a little ways up. I forgot that I put that in there. So I actually love that we're going to add another one. And now that I realize that that one's there amongst all the weeds, I want to grab 2 more and get them in here. So I think I'm going to do that as well. You can also see that in between the Rainbow's End and the Patriot, I'm going to have a little bit of a gap right there. And what I want to do is take this Ario Marginato, which is kind of hidden back here. See, it's kind of tucked in there, and I want to pull that out front so that we can see it better. And then in its place, maybe a little bit further back, this is where we're going to plant that Above the Clouds. But I think a blue in here, a smoky blue, that will be really pretty in there. And then take this and move it up here in between the Patriot and the Rainbow's End. And then you can see we have a little coral bell right there. That's called Paris. And then here's the Ajuga that's trying to make a comeback. All right, as we move up the bed, you can see we've got a hosta here. What is this one? Well, this one is called Guacamole. Coming in at 20 to 24 inches high, 24 to 28 inches wide. This is a large hosta with dark green margins and a chartreuse center. Now, the bigger this gets and the more light it gets, the more chartreuse the leaves get. Mine stay pretty green in here. It does have nice smelling flowers on it, so if you're growing hostas because you want to have the smell, this one is great for that. This one is also the hosta of the year from 2002. If we come up above that, we have a big Summon Substance. This will be my absolute favorite leaf to leaf cast because they're so big. They've got great ridges on them. Now, this is an absolutely huge hosta that will never ever come into its own or be as big as it could be in this area, but it's holding its own right there underneath that maple. A Summon Substance can actually get 3 feet high and about 3 feet wide. It does have really large leaves on it. It can handle a little bit more sun, but here's my hand, you guys. Look how big that leaf is. Isn't that huge? Look at that. I love to leaf cast with those and make bird baths or just fun things to put in the garden. If you can get this guy not underneath a maple tree, you'll have so much better luck getting it to full size. I'm pretty happy with the size that it's actually become, but this is a really big hosta. And again, the more light it gets, the more chartreuse the leaves become. Mine stay this light, pretty green. And I like it in the garden. So there's kind of a backed up view of this area. We've got some opportunity here as well. We do have another Patriot right here. And I feel like another Patriot right here would look really good. And I'm actually going to go run and get a 4th one and put another one right here. We do have some more of those little golden tiaras in here. See what I mean? They're so nice on the edge of a bed. And then, oh, look, here's the other direction looking at that Saguet. Let's swing over here. Look at my trio. Love this trio. This first one is a Halicon, and it's a beautiful blue with beautiful heart-shaped leaves, pretty slug resistance. The flowers are pretty much right over the top of it. It's thick, it's slug resistance, it's got a dense growth habit, it has really attractive flowers on it. So 14 to 16 inches high, about 2 feet wide. Isn't that a great hosta? Love that right next to the other 2. Let's take a look at this one, which is Great Expectations. Great Expectations is a really great hosta with a nice puckered leaf, 18 to 22 inches high, 24 to 30 inches wide. The center begins yellow and changes to cream as the season progresses. And the color variation really depends on the amount of shade that it's getting. It took this guy a little while to get this big. It's probably one of the slower growing hostas. I would say, well, it's in its 6th year, and I feel like last year was when it got its biggest, so 5 years to get that big. Next to that, there you go, guys. Now we're not competing with the maple. This is a Summon Substance, and this is what they should look like and how big they can get. Isn't that beautiful? Love that. Well, that was kind of neat that we got all of those identified, because I've been talking about doing that for a little while now. Sometimes it's just taking the time to get it done. All right, what we're gonna do next is I'm going to actually just cull out the weeds really fast. I got my hula hoe and my hori knife. I can probably do that in 10 minutes. There's not that many weeds, and most of them are tiny and very shallow rooted. Then we're gonna dump some compost. Now, one of the things that you want to do underneath a maple tree is not bring in a ton of dirt or a ton of compost or a ton of anything and cover up the roots. Maple tree roots want to be on the surface of the soil, and if you start bringing piles and piles and piles and piles of things and putting it on top of those roots, you're actually going to smother your tree and you're going to damage it. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to get in there and start hacking away at big roots. Now, you can take some roots out underneath a tree, but you have to do it over time. So you'll notice I didn't plant this all at the same time. I've been working on this bed now going on 6 years, and every year I add a little bit more. I also try to find the smallest plants that I can find to put in here. If you can find a bigger hosta in a pot and you can divide it to get more out of it right away, then I recommend that you do that. I think ground cover is a good solution underneath the maple tree. I am very optimistic about the geranium micro or macrorhizum, or the big root geranium. I am going to open some bags of compost in areas near the tree so that I can plant some of these plugs. I tried last year to plant right into the ground, and I think they had a really hard time establishing because they were competing so much with the roots of the tree. And this year I think I'm going to open the compost, and I've done it this way before, and I don't know why I didn't do it this way last year. I'm always hesitant though to add extra things on top of the roots. So when we do this, we're not adding a really thick layer. It's, you know, it's going to be 1 or 2 inches, and then we're going to take that plug and probably rip the bottom out of it and work it down into that compost so it can get going. The other thing that I probably didn't do great in last year when I was trying to get this garden established with the ground cover is I didn't do a lot of extra watering. For us last year, it was a wet spring. It was lush and beautiful and rained like mad. And I had green grass in July and it was awesome. But then it got dry and it didn't really rain for the rest of the summer, through the fall, or even in the winter. We didn't have a lot of snowpack. And I think that affected my ability to be able to get these things going. I mean, they're little plugs. So I have to make sure I'm a little more diligent on the watering of these, even if I'm hand watering just the areas where I put them in, especially if I don't want to be doing this over again. It takes time to get things established, and we are competing with full-grown other things in here. It would be so much easier to start it all at the same time, but that's not where we're at. We're at this part right now, and this is how we're gonna do it. So just be advised, if you're gonna add anything over the top of your roots, no more than 1 inch or 2, because you do not wanna smother your tree out. And I'm not doing it over the whole area. I'm only gonna do it in the areas where I'm actually going to plant. All right. The other thing that I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to go get one of the hostas right now, is I'm going to show you how I'm going to break this down so that I have a smaller root ball to work with to put it into the ground. All right, I'm going to take my biggest one, which is the Shadowland Diamond Lake. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this out of the pot, just like this. All right, I am going to knock off as much of this dirt as I can, okay? I am also going to loosen up the bottom as much as I can and take off extra dirt. Now, I'm not ripping roots. I'm just taking off dirt. And my goal here is to get this down to a smaller root ball, so that way it's not going to be as deep of a hole in the ground for me to dig with all of these roots and everything that I'm trying to work around. And a 2-gallon pot is a bigger pot. So as you can see, I've already gotten it a lot smaller. I'm going to be able to lay it out like this. And I'm going to keep going. I can actually probably take a hose to this too and knock some of the dirt out. This is much easier to do if the soil is moist, because I feel like the dirt comes off a little bit easier. When it's dry, I think it's a little bit harder and it's easier to rip the roots. Plus, I'm freaking it out right now and I want it to stay nice and moist. All right, but see, look at how much smaller this root ball is already compared to how big it was. So I'll keep working on this. But that is what I'll do with a lot of the bigger root balls when I'm planting around a maple tree, so that I can make it smaller and get it in the ground. Now, I won't 100% backfill my holes with compost. I will use a little bit. I need it to grow in the soil that we're putting it in. So I'll do a blend of both. That way it gets a good start, but it doesn't like freak out when it hits the native soil and then it can't keep going. But as you see now, see how much smaller this is to get in the ground? And plus I've loosened all these roots. They're gonna have a better shot of taking off into the garden. All right, so first we're gonna weed, then we're gonna drop compost, and then we're gonna plant. So sad, not enough room for above the clouds, so it's going back. Bye-bye. It is crazy hot out here, and I am glad this is done. I'm glad I got it done in the morning, because I think by noon it's going to be pretty miserable out here. Supposed to be 86, but we've got a lot of humidity right now, and then the bugs come out and you're sticking and sweating and bleh, it's just icky. So I'm glad this is done. I like everything and where it turned out. I love using the compost instead of mulch as my ground cover over here. That way I'm improving the soil, but it also allows me to dig a shallower hole to be able to put some of those things in. So you saw me shake off a lot of dirt off of some of the hostas, and some of the hostas that were in the pots, there really weren't a lot of deep roots anyway, so the dirt just fell right off. The one hosta that I wanted to move to put the above the clouds in, that was not moving. That thing is in there, and I must have put it in when it was really little as a split or something, because there are roots like that big around all around it, so we had to leave it there. And there really wasn't another place for me to be able to put that in. So let's see where everything landed. I am so happy with how this turned out. Now everyone cross their fingers that this ground cover takes. Well, start right here, and I really didn't do anything on this side except there was this little bitty start of a rainbow's end in one of the pots, so I pulled it off and I stuck it right there. So I ended up getting 2 out of 1. And as we swing around, you can see that we did end up putting a rainbow's end right here. We added some macrophyllus right here. We come around and we've got 3 of the patriots that we added in here. And then I added 2 more of the rainbow's end. And that's really what I added the most of around the outside edges. Really happy with how those turned out. Here we have another patriot that we added next to the rainbow's end that was already there. So I like this little combination right here. We're going to give the ajuga a chance to fill in. And then if we swing in towards the middle of the bed, this is where we tucked in the voices in the wind. It'll fill this area right here. Yes, those big root geraniums will fill in as well. They'll kind of grow underneath, and then we're hoping that some of them, you know, peek up through the leaves. That's always a good look. I know Lamium does it, and I love it when it does it. But you can see that we have the big root geranium, and we've just all through here. And what we did was we just dumped that compost. We used our hori knife to dig like through the roots so that we could get that little plug down in there. And then we just used whatever clay we pulled up and then the compost to bury it in there. So worked out really well. And I'll tell you, all the hostas that I chose that were in the 1 gallon, they were super easy to get out. I do like the way this carex looks right here. I hope I didn't plant it too close together. We're gonna find out, but I think this is so sweet. I do like it, and it's going to get bigger. And the variegated ones are a little bit smaller, and the blue ones will get a little bit larger. And if anywhere there's a little bit of sun, it is right through here. All right, we did put another Patriot hosta right here in between the golden tiaras. Here's a look at everything kind of from this direction here. And let's just go take a walk up the path and then just take a look at that real fast. All right, up the path we go. We left this hosta here, but we did take out that sum and substance, and this is where the Diamond Lake ended up. And I've given this enough room to get this big, and then we put a Patriot here. So I didn't put any of the big root geraniums right here. I actually ran out. I do have 2 more trays, but I'm saving them. So that's what we're going to be using underneath the other maple tree as well. So stay tuned for that. I've got plans. All right, don't forget, you guys, if you know what this one is, let me know. That was pretty much all the changes that we did on this side, but here's a look at it as you're going up the hill. And then let's just back out a little bit and give you a view from this direction. Look at that. Isn't that coming together so nicely? Oh, I love it. All right, there you go, you guys. One hosta garden underneath a maple. I know, can you believe it? Well, that was hot work, and I'm glad it's done because it's getting warmer as the day progresses and the humidity just keeps going up. I know that I am really happy with how this turned out. I'm just gonna make sure I keep it watered, keep an eye on it, but I'm hoping that this turns into just what I want it to turn into, which is beautiful ground cover amongst all of these different hostas. All right, that's all I've got for today, you guys. I hope you get in your garden, get your hands in the dirt, and have a great rest of your day. I'm Michelle, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye!